Hello children, welcome to the foundation course with us at Yupp Master. We began with the excretory system and now we are going to continue with the second part of urine formation. So, shall we begin? Yes? Now, if you remember, urine formation took place in 3 stages, out of which in our last lecture, we began with the first stage. And what was that first stage? It was none other than ultrafiltration. Do you remember the names of those 3 stages? The first one was ultrafiltration. The second one was selective reabsorption. And the third stage was tubular secretion. Alright. So, let us begin with ultrafiltration and then we move on to the next. In ultrafiltration, it was all about different pressures. Which were the major important pressures we needed to know? Let's revise that too. And also, just for our remembering, what was the meaning of ultrafiltration? Ultrafiltration meant filtration which is occurring under high pressure. Whenever there is pressure being pulled and because of the pressure the filtration is happening, that's what we're going to be calling as ultrafiltration. So, stay with me, pay attention. This is a very important concept of this chapter. Good evening. I hope you're all here and I hope you've had a good day until now. So, let's start. Now, first of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of filtration pressure. Okay, what is filtration pressure? We did this last time. I'm going to do it again just so that you don't forget it. Okay, here is a beaker and in this beaker, this is a solution which is there. Remember that this solution is actually a colloid. Okay, now what exactly is a colloid? Colloid means that it is going to be having the solutes inside it, but the solutes will not be dissolved. Okay, the solutes are not going to be dissolved. They will be present inside it, but not in a dissolved state. But one thing you need to remember, even though the solutes are present, you do not see them separately. Okay, for example, I am going to take the real example what we're talking about right now of blood. You know that blood has a liquid part. What do you call it as? You call it as plasma. Blood also has a solid part. What do you call that as? You call this as a blood cells, right? But whenever you look at blood, do you see the cells separate and the liquid part separate? No, you don't. Are the cells dissolved in that liquid? No, they aren't. But they still look like a homogeneous mixture, doesn't it? So, this is what you call as a colloid, where the solid particles are in the liquid particles, but you are not able to tell the difference and they are not dissolved in it. Okay, now what we need to understand is in such a solution where there is a solid particle and there is a liquid particle, in that solution there are certain pressures which are interchanged. Okay, so let's see what those pressures are. First of all, the force, there is one force which is exerted by the liquid molecules, okay, which means that the liquid is going to put some sort of force on the solid, and what is it going to do, or why is that force being put? That force is being put in order to throw those solutes out of the solution. Take the solute, throw it out. Who is doing that? The liquid is doing that. And this kind of force which the liquid puts on the solid, why? To throw them out of the solution. That type of force is going to be called as a hydrostatic pressure. Okay, so whenever a liquid molecule exerts a pressure on a solid molecule, why? To throw it out of the solution. This is going to be called as hydrostatic pressure. Okay, but in your blood, do you see the cells falling out? No, you don't, which means that in spite of the liquid molecules putting a pressure on solid, are they pushed out of the solution? No, they aren't. This can conclude that even the solid molecules are going to exert some pressure on the liquid molecules. Why? To stay in the solution. Okay, so in order to stay in the solution, the solid molecules will in turn put some pressure on the liquid molecules just so that they can stay inside. This type of pressure is going to be called as the colloid osmotic pressure. Did you understand these two pressures? Liquid on solid. What pressure? Hydrostatic pressure. Then the pressure put by solid on liquid. Which pressure? Colloid osmotic pressure. You remember what a colloid is? Colloid means when the solutes are present in the solution in such a way that the solution appears to be homogeneous. Solution appears to be homogeneous. But are the solutes dissolved? No, they aren't. So this is going to be called as a colloid. In your day-to-day life, even milk is a colloid. What is milk made up of? Fat and water. Is fat soluble in water? Not at all. But when you look at milk, can you see the fat and the water separate? No, you don't. So this is also a colloid. The colloid that we are talking about right now is blood. Why? Because it is blood that's going to be filtered. Okay. So shall we begin with the whole process of ultrafiltration? Yes, let's start. When we are talking about ultrafiltration, remember it is filtration under pressure, under high pressure. Okay. Now, why was that pressure built up? Do you remember that? One very important point. The diameter of the afferent arteriole was greater than the diameter of the efferent arteriole. Okay. So, diameter of afferent, if it is greater than diameter of efferent, then naturally there is going to be a pressure build up in this region. Yes. What region is that? It is the glomerulus. So, at the level of those glomerular capillaries, there is a lot of pressure being built up. And if there is pressure being built up there, then naturally there is going to be filtration occurring because capillaries are very thin walled. If a pressure is applied upon them, things will have a tendency to come out of it. Okay. Now, let's see which are the pressures involved. The first and foremost pressure, okay, that pressure is the pressure with which blood is going to enter inside the glomerulus. Now, let me give you a small example. Let's say there is a lecture going on, okay, and in that lecture, there is this huge hefty boy who doesn't want to sit in the lecture, okay. So, as soon as ma'am goes out to take a break, that boy gets up and he tries to run. Now, when he's trying to run, two of his friends are already standing outside. They want to stop him because they know that the principal is standing outside. Okay. So, but those friends are comparatively much smaller than him in size. Okay. So, they try to stop him. They are putting some resistance on him so that he cannot come out of the classroom. So, what is ultimately going to happen? That boy is bigger than both of them clubbed together also. So, ultimately he will be able to come out of the classroom. But because of the resistance that was put up by those two friends, his speed or his rate would become a little slower. Okay. So, let me just coincide this example that I gave with the filtration that's happening. Okay. Now, the first pressure I am going to talk about is the pressure with which blood enters inside. Okay. So, blood is entering inside the glomerulus with a big arteriole with a big diameter. So, naturally it's going to be coming with a large force. Okay. It is blood. Blood is a liquid. So, can I call that pressure with which blood is flowing as the glomerular hydrostatic pressure? What was hydrostatic pressure? Hydrostatic pressure meant pressure put by the liquid, right? So, liquid on solid is hydrostatic pressure. This is the hydrostatic pressure of the glomerulus. So, that is called as the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. How much is it? Maximum, the big boy. Okay. How much? It is 55 mm of Hg. Why mm of Hg? Mm of Hg is actually the unit which we are using in order to calculate or to talk about pressure. Okay. So, glomerular hydrostatic pressure is how much? Maximum 55 mm of Hg. So, the blood is coming down into the glomerulus with the intention to be filtered out. Alright, I hope that's clear. Now, next pressure. This is a pressure which is going to be put up, okay, and it is going to be a pressure which is resisting. Remember I told you, the boy wants to walk out of the classroom, but he has two friends who are already standing out who want to prevent him, okay. So, they are resisting him. There are forces here which are resisting the blood from being filtered. Let's see what those forces are, okay. First force, let's see. First of all, we see that whenever there is filtration taking place, what is supposed to be filtered here? Can you guess? What do you think is supposed to be filtered? Because remember, when blood is being filtered, then ultimately whatever is going to be depositing over here is going to be made into urine. Okay, so do you want good substances to be filtered? Do you think that good substances should be filtered, or should the good substances stay over here so that they can stay in the circulation? Yes, do you agree with me? All the good substances. What do you mean by good substances? Blood cells. Do you want to lose blood cells through urine? No. Proteins. Do you want to lose proteins through urine? Not at all. So basically, all the good substances should not be filtered. Okay. So what exactly, there's going to be some piling up. Okay. Especially of protein. Big molecules will not be able to be filtered. So what happens? Those big molecules, let me draw that in a black color. The large molecules, okay, like let's say proteins. Proteins are comparatively large in size. So let's say these large molecules are going to just go and settle down over here, okay. Why? Because they were not able to filter down. They were not able to filter down. The liquid part filters down. Small molecules will filter down. But will these large molecules filter? No, they won't. So ultimately what will happen? All those large molecules will accumulate in one side. Okay. Now if these large molecules accumulate in one side, what will happen eventually with a period of time? Won't this actually go ahead and block all of it? And if it is blocked, then there will be no filtration continuing. That would be a major problem. So what does it need to do? It will, these large molecules which are here are going to send a signal to the blood which is flowing down here. It will tell the blood that if you want to get filtered, go ahead and get filtered. But it will need some of the liquid part along with it, which means that these solid molecules over here are going to be putting a pressure on the liquid over here. Why? So that some of the liquid part stays with the solid. Okay, if all the liquid, let me just erase all of this. If all the liquid comes down, then these solid molecules will not be able to flow back out. Remember, blood is called as a fluid because it is able to flow. Okay, without liquid, how is it going to flow? So these solid molecules will put a pressure on the blood over here. Why? To stay in the solution. So whenever we have that solid molecules are putting a pressure on liquid molecules, which type of pressure did I call this as? Didn't I call it as an osmotic pressure? Yes. So blood colloidal osmotic pressure. What is this? Big word? Not at all. We learned these three words. Colloidal osmotic pressure. Which is the fluid we're talking about? We're talking about blood. Yes. So all of those solid particles of blood, okay, which are not being filtered out, want to go out, want to remain in this circulation. So they will not get filtered. But in order to go out, they need to stay in a liquid. So these solid particles, let me erase it again. These solid particles exert a pressure on the liquid particle over here. Why? So that some of the liquid stays with those solid so that they can easily go out. That is pressure exerted by solid on liquid. That's why I'm calling it as osmotic. What was hydrostatic? Hydrostatic was pressure exerted by liquid on solid. Okay, hydrostatic was liquid on solid. Okay, osmotic is solid on liquid. And how much is that blood colloidal osmotic pressure? I'll call it as BCOP. Can you see that here? Blood colloidal osmotic pressure, BCOP. How much is it? It is 30 mm of Hg. I told you the largest pressure was the first one, the big boy in the classroom. How much? It was 55 mm of Hg. Resisting it is one boy who is going to be putting a pressure of 30 mm of Hg. Then one more pressure is being there too for resistance. Now, you know that this is a 24/7 process happening all the time in the body. Okay. So here, when I'm saying that blood is being filtered, it is always being filtered. Right now also, when you're sitting and watching me across your screen, there is filtration happening in your kidneys right now too. Same goes for me. Even my kidneys are filtering blood right now. So basically, whenever new blood is going to be coming here and being filtered, do not forget that there will be a filtrate previously present here. Okay, now this filtrate which is previously present is going to also put up pressure, and that pressure is also going to resist the new blood from coming. Let's say you're sitting in a classroom with all of your friends and suddenly I come and tell you, okay, I'm going to bring a whole new batch of students and let them sit with you. Will you like that? No, you won't. What will you do? You'll scatter around and you'll tell me, ma'am, there's no space now. Won't you do that? The same way, even the old filtrate, this filtrate over here, will not want new filtrate to come. So it will also try to resist the new filtrate, and that is going to be called as the capsular hydrostatic pressure. Why capsular? Because the filtrate is present in the Bowman's capsule. So that's why it is a pressure which is exerted by the filtrate already in the Bowman's capsule. And it is a resisting pressure. How much? Of around 15 mm of Hg. It is a resisting pressure of 15 mm of Hg. So, when blood wants to be coming down and wants to be filtered, how much is it coming? At a rate of 55 mm of Hg. But it is being resisted by two pressures. One pressure is the BCOP. Remember that? Alright, let me just erase this. Give me a second. Okay, so this is going to be resisted, means it is going to stop it. That's why I'm putting a minus. Which are the two pressures stopping it? One is the BCOP, okay, that is 30. And the second one is the capsular hydrostatic pressure, that is 15. So, 55 minus 45. So, the net effective filtration pressure is going to be how much? It will be 10 mm of Hg. Look at these words that I have written here. Net filtration pressure. What is net filtration pressure? It is the glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus both the resisting pressures. Resisting pressures are acting together. That's why we have added them together. So, minus BCOP and CHP together, that is what we're going to be calling as the net effective filtration pressure. And how much is it? 10 mm of Hg. So, this means that although blood is coming with a force of 55 mm of Hg, but actual filtration that's happening is with a pressure of 10 mm of Hg. Is that clear? Does that set things straight? So, the three pressures that we learned here. First pressure, glomerular hydrostatic pressure, the maximum. Which are the resisting pressures? There are two resisting pressures. First, blood colloidal osmotic pressure and capsular hydrostatic pressure. I hope these three pressures are very clear. So, net filtration pressure is going to be 10 mm of Hg. Okay. Alright. Now, just what we spoke a little while back, when filtration is actually happening, what exactly are the substances that can filter out of blood? Okay. Which are those substances? Do you think that blood cells can filter out of blood? Yes or no? No, not at all. We don't want blood cells in the urine. So, they should not be filtered. Okay. So, blood cells are not being filtered. What about plasma? What is plasma? Plasma is the liquid part of blood. Okay. So, does the liquid part of blood filter out? Yes, it does. So, plasma filters out. Does protein filters out? No. We want proteins. Do you want to be losing proteins through your urine? Not at all. So, because we need proteins, they're not going to be filtering out. So, basically, when we say that filtrate is being formed, where is filtrate being formed? In the nephron. That filtrate is basically going to be plasma minus its proteins. And when you want to give a name to this, plasma minus proteins, you may call it as deproteinized plasma. Deproteinized plasma. That is plasma without proteins. I hope that's clear. Alright. Do you remember which were those three pressures that we spoke about? Yes, tell me quickly. The three pressures were, first was the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. Second was an osmotic pressure. Which one? Blood colloidal osmotic pressure. And the third one was a hydrostatic pressure. Which one? It was capsular hydrostatic pressure. Out of these three, this was the pressure with which blood wanted to flow out, and these were the resisting pressures. Okay, I hope this made sense. Can we go ahead? I hope so, yes. Alright. So, when we have the filtrate actually formed, that filtrate, what filtrate after 10 mm of Hg of pressure, whatever filtrate is going to be formed here, that filtrate, which level of this of the nephron is this called as? May I call this as the PCT? Do you remember this? This is the PCT. So this filtrate is going to be called as glomerular filtrate, or you may call it as deproteinized plasma, or this whole substance which is being formed. It may also, sometimes they may use the word primary urine also, but more commonly what is it's called as is glomerular filtrate or deproteinized plasma. Okay, now the rate at which it is being filtered, that rate, okay, now when I'm saying rate, I'm talking about time. Alright, so the rate at which it's going to be filtered is how much? It is 125 ml per minute, which means that in your nephron, I told you just a little while back that filtration is happening all the time. Right now also when you're sitting, your kidneys are filtering blood. Even my kidneys are filtering blood. But at which rate are they filtering blood? At what rate is the blood actually falling down, actually being filtered? It is 125 ml per minute. So every minute in this PCT, how much of filtrate is being collected? 125 ml per minute. Okay. So basically we see that per minute around out of the total blood in your body, there is 1100 to 1200 ml of blood which is being filtered by the kidneys per minute. And one more thing. If at all this much of filtrate is being formed, okay, if this much is filtrate is being formed, then do you actually think that that much of urine is going to be passed? Do you know that if at all it is 125 ml per minute, then in one day it would be around 180 liters. Are you passing 180 liters of urine in one day? I hope you aren't. You are passing only 1 liter. So this means that if at all the filtrate formed is around 180 liters, but you are passing only 1 liter out, then what's happening to the remaining part? It is going to be reabsorbed, which means that around 99% of the filtrate which is formed is going to be reabsorbed. Okay, all right. So now let's continue. After we are done with ultrafiltration. Okay, ultrafiltration, what was the meaning of ultrafiltration? It meant filtration happening under pressure. Okay, now that pressure, which was the pressures which were involved? It was the glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which was around 55 mm of Hg. Okay, then second pressure, it was resisted by, which were the resisting pressures? The first one was blood colloidal osmotic pressure, and that was around 30 mm of Hg. Okay, and the next pressure was capsular hydrostatic pressure, which was around 15 mm of Hg. Okay, so total what do we have? The net filtration pressure, that is 55 minus 30 plus 15, and that would be 55 minus 45, and that would be 10 mm of Hg. All right, and most important thing you need to remember, what is glomerular filtration rate? The GFR. How much is GFR per minute? It is 125 ml per minute. Okay, this is a value which you need to remember. GFR is 125 ml per minute. Okay, so that is done with ultrafiltration. Let us start with the second step of urine formation, and that second step is selective reabsorption. Now, what is this selective reabsorption all about? Are you with me? Did you understand ultrafiltration? Please type me a yes or no. Have you understood ultrafiltration? So I can comfortably go ahead and we can do selective reabsorption together. Tell me in my chat box if you have understood what ultrafiltration is all about. Tell me, I'm waiting for you. Have you understood or not? Tell me. Now, so As we continue ahead, when we talk about what exactly selective reabsorption is, okay. Now, I told you that at the level of the ultrafiltration, there is filtration happening, but that filtration is happening under high pressure. Yes, the filtration that's happening is under pressure, and remember that when filtration is happening under pressure, then it is very natural that sometimes certain things may be filtered which we don't want to be filtered. So maybe certain good substances might be filtered too. Yes, let's see what that is all about. So absorption of selective useful substances from the glomerular filtrate to the capillaries. That's what it's all about. Let's see what that means. Okay. Now before we come to that, let me just tell you that when filtration is happening, okay, like let's say if I'm saying that this is my Bowman's capsule, this is my PCT, okay, and this ahead is my loop of Henle, okay, and ahead will come the, naturally will come the DCT. This is a convoluted tubule, okay, and these are the collecting tubules, and this is my collecting duct. Okay, this is my nephron. Here is my glomerulus. Okay, now remember I told you ultrafiltration means filtration under pressure. Sometimes what happens is the filtrate which is formed, even if I don't want, certain good useful substances might enter into the filtrate. For example, glucose. Do you want to lose glucose through urine? Absolutely not. So what do we need to do in that case? Wouldn't we need to reabsorb? Yes. So inside here, there are going to be cells which will help in reabsorption. So, and why is it called as reabsorption? If I'm saying that there's glucose here, where did the glucose come from? Didn't it come from the digestive system? And in the digestive system, that is the place where the first absorption happened. And because glucose is being absorbed again in the body, that's why we're going to be calling this process as reabsorption. Alright, so here are those glucose molecules, and if at all these glucose molecules actually stay inside here, then do you know that you would be losing glucose through urine? Do you want to be losing glucose through urine? No, we don't. So what do we need to do? Now is the time we will need to absorb those glucose molecules. Not only glucose molecules, there will be other useful molecules too. For example, amino acids. Yes, do you want to be losing amino acids? No, you don't. So even that needs to be reabsorbed. So let us see now which substances are being reabsorbed and where are they being reabsorbed. Okay. Now remember one thing I'd like you to know. I am now introducing you to two hormones in our body. One hormone is called as aldosterone and the second hormone is called as ADH. Let's see what this is all about. First and foremost, understand that these are two hormones in our body which are going to help us to maintain osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Osmoregulation means that it is going to be a balance between salt and water. Okay, so osmoregulation is a salt and water balance. So these two hormones will help to maintain the normal levels of salt and water in our body. Okay, when we talk about ADH, remember that ADH, okay, is a hormone which loves water. So ADH loves water, and the second hormone is called as aldosterone. Okay, aldosterone actually is loving salt. So ADH is a water loving hormone and aldosterone is a salt loving hormone. So aldosterone loves salt. Okay, ADH loves water, aldosterone loves salt. So if ADH loves water, do you think that ADH will let water go out of the body? No, it won't. It will make sure that water stays in the body. And if aldosterone loves salt, do you think that aldosterone will let salt go out of the body? Not at all. It is going to make sure that salt stays in the body. And because these two hormones, which two hormones? ADH. What does ADH stand for? ADH stands for antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. In a little while, I'll explain to you why is it called as an antidiuretic hormone. Okay, right now I would just like you to understand that it is called as ADH. First and foremost, understand the basics. ADH loves water, aldosterone loves salt. If ADH loves water, it will be a water saving hormone, and aldosterone will be a salt saving hormone. Together, they will help in maintaining the water and salt balance in our body. Salt and water balance in our body is called as osmoregulation. So, these two hormones, ADH and aldosterone, are the hormones which are helping us to maintain osmoregulation. Is that clear? Yes, let's continue. Now, after this, let us see how and where selective reabsorption is actually happening. Okay, now over here, just a little difference in the diagram. This here is the Bowman's capsule, okay, and this part here is where is my PCT. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Okay, just that the coiling has happened a little differently. So this is the PCT involved here. Okay, now because the filtration has happened under pressure, there is going to be certain useful substances in the filtrate too. What are we going to do with those useful substances? Aren't we going to reabsorb them? Yes. So when we are reabsorbing them, the first thing we need to reabsorb, the most important thing in our body, that is glucose. Okay, glucose is going to be reabsorbed. Amino acids are going to be reabsorbed. Hormones will be reabsorbed if at all hormones manage to pass through it. Remember, hormones are proteins too. Then vitamins will be reabsorbed. Do you want to actually just think, would you want to lose these things through urine? Not at all. So we need to reabsorb them. Even certain ions like sodium, potassium, calcium, bicarbonates, we do not want to lose any of these things through urine. So what do? We will reabsorb them. Okay. All these things are reabsorbed, and do not forget, even water. Water is a substance which is going to be reabsorbed to a massive extent because our body loves water. We cannot afford to be losing water through urine. But you will tell me that, ma'am, urine is water only with some salts maybe. But the water that we're losing out through urine is barely 1% of the water which is formed in the filtrate. So, around 99% of the water is going to be reabsorbed and only a small part of the water is lost, what you see as urine. Okay. So, even water is being reabsorbed and even chloride ions are going to be reabsorbed. Also, at the level of the loop of Henle, there are small flat cells over there. Okay. So, those flat cells are going to be enabling diffusion to happen. And what will be coming out? Water will come out from the descending limb. Salt will come out from the ascending limb. Okay. Remember, this is a very important part, that in the descending limb of loop of Henle, what comes out? Water comes out. Ascending limb of loop of Henle, remember what I am saying. Ascending limb of the loop of Henle is impermeable to water. Ascending limb of loop of Henle is impermeable to water. This means that from this ascending limb, there will be no water coming out, not at all. Similarly, from this descending limb, there will be no salt coming out. Okay. So, ascending limb is impermeable to water. Is that clear? Now, do you see here boxes are red? Do you see here boxes are green? What is this indicating? The red boxes are indicating that in order for absorption to happen here, energy is going to be utilized. And the green that is there is indicating that energy is not required. That happens on its own. Okay, so that's why I have given a different red and a green color. Next, when we talk next, okay, that at the level of the DCT, what is being reabsorbed? First thing being reabsorbed, if at all there's too much, then if at all the body cells, if they don't have enough salt, let's say you go out, you play football, you come back home, you didn't drink water, then naturally you have sweated a lot. And when you're sweating, you're not only losing water, you're also losing salt. So after a football game, maybe if you've gone and played, then salt amount in your body will be less. And if the amount of salt is less, do you want to then throw out salt through urine? Not at all. We need to reabsorb the salt too. Which was a hormone which loved salt? Wasn't it called as an aldosterone hormone? So, whenever your body cells have less salt, this hormone will be secreted. Which hormone? Aldosterone. That hormone is responsible for going to this DCT and absorbing salt. Next, if at all in your body water levels are less, then which hormone will start working? ADH. ADH will make sure that water will be reabsorbed. Okay, so ADH reabsorbs water, aldosterone reabsorbs salt. But when are these two going to be working? Only if the body requires. Only if your body requires, these two hormones will work. Otherwise, if the body has enough water, enough salt, then these two hormones will not work. Okay. Also, another thing, at the level of the collecting duct, water will be reabsorbed too, if at all required. Alright. So this is basically how in the whole nephron the reabsorption is happening. And because only certain substances are being reabsorbed, that is why we're going to be labeling this whole process as selective reabsorption. Alright. I hope this was clear. First of all, before we go ahead, I'd like you to remember these two hormones. First hormone was ADH. ADH stood for antidiuretic hormone. ADH hormone loved water. Okay. And the next hormone, aldosterone. These are two names which are very important, ADH and aldosterone. Aldosterone is a hormone which loves salt. Okay. Both of these together are going to be helping in maintaining osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? Balance between salt and water. Is that clear? Yes? Alright. Now, one more thing. You know that at the level of the PCT, glucose is going to be reabsorbed. Are you with me? Yes, at the level of PCT, glucose is going to be reabsorbed. Yes? Alright. One thing I'd like to come in between. If at all this is making sense to you, if you're enjoying learning with me, please go ahead and just give me a like over there, okay, or in the chat box, give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this lecture, so we can continue just as well. Okay, I hope to see some interaction from you all. Yes, go to the like button. After a lecture, you can drop in a comment, and I hope you've already subscribed to my channel. All. So here, first of all, let's continue. When I'm saying that at the level of the PCT, there is selective reabsorption of glucose happening. We expect that all the glucose which is going to be present in this filtrate, no matter how much of glucose will be present here, all of the glucose should be reabsorbed. All the glucose needs to be reabsorbed. Okay. Now, let's say that the level of glucose in the filtrate is way too much. Okay. Remember one thing, that whenever substances are being reabsorbed, okay, so if certain substances are being pushed out of, we're taking it out of the filtrate, then if they're taken out of the filtrate, then where do they go? They enter into the blood of that area. Okay, so basically over here, if this is the afferent arteriole, this is efferent arteriole, then there will be these tubular capillaries here. You remember this here? Okay, there will be peritubular capillaries here. Then this will be the vasa recta. Do you remember this whole structure? Blood supply to the kidney. Yes. So basically what happens is, whenever from the nephron, if anything is being absorbed, then where is it being put back into? It will be put back into the blood. Which blood? The capillaries over here. Okay. So glucose also from the filtrate, it's taken out, and where is it put? Put back into the blood. But blood can only hold on to a certain amount of glucose. After a certain level, even blood will say that now I don't want to hold on to more glucose. Let it stay in the filtrate. If I hold on to more glucose, then I will start suffering. Who's saying that? Blood is saying that. So blood will say, I will hold on to as much as I can, but after that if there's more glucose, then I don't care, let it go out through urine. Okay. So now how much is blood actually going to be able to hold on to? Blood is able to hold on to 45 to 95 milligrams of glucose per 100 ml of blood. So when you have 100 ml of blood, normal level of glucose in that blood is how much? It is 45 to 95 milligrams of glucose. Okay. Now, let's say this person is a person who has got very high amount of glucose in the blood, in that filtrate. So blood will say, it's okay, come, let me take more glucose, because blood doesn't want glucose to be lost through urine. So how much more glucose will blood take? Blood will go ahead and it will be ready to take 160 milligrams of glucose per 100 ml of blood. If at all there is more than this glucose in the filtrate, where in the filtrate if there is more glucose than 160, then will blood take it? No, it won't. What will blood do? Let it go out through urine. So when the blood sugar level is more than 160, that is when you can start observing glucose present in the urine of a patient. And when glucose is present in the urine of a patient, may we call this condition as glucosuria, also known as diabetes. Have you heard of diabetes? What do you always hear about diabetes? Sugar level is high. So when sugar level is high, blood cannot hold on to much more sugar level. So what does blood do? Throws out that sugar through the urine. Did you understand this? I hope you did. Alright. So when we talk about selective reabsorption, what are the substances being reabsorbed to a massive extent? All of the glucose, all of the amino acids will be reabsorbed. Very low amounts of urea and uric acid will be reabsorbed. And substances which are completely not reabsorbed is something which is called as creatinine. What is creatinine? It is a waste which is formed when your muscles are being used. So creatinine is something very toxic. So however much creatinine is formed has to be thrown out through the kidneys. Okay, compulsory, it has to be thrown out. That's why we are saying that creatinine is not absorbed at all. And it is something that blood has no threshold for. Blood will not at all hold on to creatinine. It will throw it out through the urine. Blood holds on to maximum amount of glucose and amino acids. That's why these are called as high threshold. And blood can also hold on to small amounts of urea and uric acid. So these are low threshold. Where do you think water would fall? Which category would water fall into? Can I call water as a high threshold substance? Yes. So water is going to be reabsorbed to a massive extent. That is why we say even water along with glucose and amino acids has a high threshold. Alright. Remember this word over here, creatinine. It is nothing but muscle waste and it has to be thrown out of the body. Okay. If creatinine levels are high in the blood, this will mean that there is something wrong in the functioning of the kidney. Alright. So I hope you understood today's lecture where we spoke all about selective reabsorption. In our next lecture, we will be learning about the final step in urine formation, and we will go ahead, we'll discuss some MCQs too, and we will talk all about composition of urine. So stay with me for our lecture which is there day after tomorrow. Till then, you guys stay home, stay safe, and hope you had a great time. Bye-bye.